And now, TSPN is proud to present Insights on Leadership and Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Welcome to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm Roberta Pickett, and I'm your host this evening. And I am a professional certified life coach. And my vision is to bring to you and to all of our community from here and from around the world ideas and insights about leadership and about life that can help you to succeed in life, to have more fulfillment and greater joy. And with me tonight, I have three great leaders who are going to join me on the show tonight. And I've got Bonnie Kuhn of Bonnie Kuhn Events. I've got Ken Buback, from Sutter Physician Services, and I've got Mark Borchin from Glass Doctor of the Gold Country. So what we're going to do this evening is we're going to be talking about leadership at various different levels in different businesses, because our guests tonight represent three very different type of businesses, both from their size as well as from the types of services they provide. So as we start talking this evening, we're going to be talking about the similarities and the differences there are in leading a different type of business. So let's get started. The first segment, we're going to really be focused on finding out who you guys are. So who wants to go first with just introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, a little bit about your background. So, Mark?
Sure, we can.
You're always good for talking.
Right to left, yeah. I grew up in Northern California. I'm a native Sacramentan, and my father's side is from McCallum Hill. So it's a beautiful place to raise a family. And I stumbled into the industry and the business that I'm in now, wondering what I was going to do 25 years ago. And I'm really a servant to mankind, and this is my vehicle to help them.
So your business is Glass Doctor of the Gold Country, so it's a franchise?
Glass Doctor is a franchise with over 300 glass doctors across North America, about 8 of them in Canada as well.
You have Glass Doctor in Jackson, and do you have any other shops?
The territory is actually Folsom, El Dorado, Amador, Calaveras. Growing up in Sacramento, I saw a lot of changes, and I preferred to see cow pastures in between instead of gridlock, and make a living and enjoy life.
So you've been doing it for 25 years?
Yes, I started out in rock chip repair.
Wow.
After my stepfather passed away, and he owned a bar over in Roseville. And the La Rosa Club still needed some management while we were looking for a buyer. And what an experience. We finally found a buyer, held a check for a few minutes for $300,000, had to add another $5,000 to the kitty to break even. And move on. And I'd started out doing rock chip repairs, and I just kept growing. I got bored very quickly. So once I built a route, I had somebody else manage that, and then I'd go out and build another one, and pretty soon people asked if I did replacements on autos because they weren't satisfied with chip repair or whatever. So I grew into replacement. And
so when you first started, were you actually working for Glass Doctor, or were you more on your own?
No,
and then you...
I was a complete independent glass repair company.
Interesting.
Repair and replacement. And I saw Glass Doctor's opportunity to give me systems and procedures. Without a formal education, I was hitting some ceilings that I couldn't get through. And I had grown my business to 3 locations and a wholesale division, and I lost my bottom line. I didn't know how dramatic a 10% loss could be when you're doing millions of dollars. And so I recovered with my personal assets.
Wasn't that fun?
Oh, yeah. I'm almost... even again.
We're later in the program, we're going to talk about mistakes made or lessons learned, so I have a feeling you have a good story for us.
Just tell me when to stop talking.
Do you have a family?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I have my wife, Eva, who is first generation from Bavaria, and
interesting.
3 wonderful kids.
Oh, that's great. Still at home?
Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ken, how about you?
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you.
You're welcome.
I look forward to some inspiring conversation here. I have a little different background coming from the state of Michigan, where I was born and raised. My career spans around 40 years, generally in the not-for-profit sector. Originally, I was engaged in university administration work after my graduate studies back in Michigan, and then made a career change into healthcare administration, and have worked in a variety of health systems and hospitals across the country, originally back in the Midwest and more recently in California. And my work is involved in administrative support functions that support clinical areas in the healthcare field. So I've had a variety of different positions. In the last 30 years, they've been primarily executive level responsibility. And I've learned a lot, and one of my roles is to mentor other healthcare leaders in our company, and I get a great joy and gratification from that.
Yeah. How long have you been, I guess I would say, how long have you been doing that mentorship?
The mentorship, about 9 years,
Yeah.
and I have a routine. About 20% of my current role is spent mentoring and coaching other healthcare leaders in my company. That's part of my responsibility, of course, and the other is a routine human resources administration, strategic planning, training, things of that nature.
But I saw your eyes light up when you talked about the mentoring, so
yes.
I can relate to that. I understand. And you said you've been out here in California how long?
About 25 years.
Wow.
So I feel like a native, even though, and some of that time was in Southern California, and most of it here in the north. I'm married to my wife Patty for 40 years. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary coming up, and I have 2 adult daughters living outside the home now. So
Great.
And hopefully we'll talk about later some work-life balance issues and how to remain successful in all aspects of your life, right?
Exactly. It's easy to get focused on one area and have something else slide.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before the program started about the wheel of life,
Yes.
and the key is to keeping it balanced. And we definitely will come back to that topic later. So welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And last but definitely not least, Bonnie, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Bonnie Kuhn, and I came from the Bay Area. I was born and raised, and so I actually dug up my roots in 2006 and brought my youngest son up to Calaveras County. My oldest son completed high school and lived with his dad in San Jose, and it has been the best change ever. It was definitely a huge change moving from the Bay Area, but it was a really, really wonderful, healthy change especially for my son. My background is 30 years of event planning experience, and I also come from entrepreneurs in my family, and we just go back generations. My grandparents, I can remember working with them in their variety store over in Galt, California. Oh. And my dad owned 3 major multi-million-dollar companies in the Bay Area, and is truly my mentor and my guide as an entrepreneur. And my background primarily had been based on doing large events and fundraisers, and I had created an organization called Silver Oak Educational Partnership when my children started school, and I wanted to have control over how the money was spent, and I didn't want it controlled by the state. I didn't want it controlled by any other organizations. I wanted a board of directors, so we created that, and so that was my first big leverages in the fundraising industry. And then I worked with some athletes, Ronnie Lott and so on, and various other athletes, and did quite a few fundraisers and weddings and community events and so on.
You're doing something different these days,
yes,
aren't you?
Yes, it's quite a change. When I moved here, I actually was retired, and then I had a financial loss of a Bernie Madoff type of thing, which kind of redirected my retirement. And I, at the same time, also had some very serious health issues that came about, and was recommended that I no longer do events as a full-time career, because it is a very demanding job. And though I love it, I had to really, it was a wake-up call for me to pay attention to my health. And so I went into entrepreneurial coaching, which is how we met.
Exactly.
And I did that for about 3.5, 4 years. And it was actually this past year which really shifted my passion, really hit the soul of my gut when I took care of my mother in her last days of hospice. And it helped me refocus my energy into a place that really can make a difference to the millions of people I know I can influence.
Yeah.
So,
Great need.
A huge need. It's a huge need.
Well, welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you.
And all of you. It's great to have you here, and you know, I love the fact that each of us has such a diverse background, where we've come from and what we've done with our lives and our businesses, our business side of life. And what I also get is that there's a ton of experience right here in this room. What's going to be fun.
The curiosity is definitely there.
I know.
I want to know more about each one of you.
And it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to getting more into the nitty-gritty of leadership in each of our areas and figuring out what that means. And in that next segment, we're going to actually talk about the characteristics of good leaders. So before we do that, we're going to take a few minutes break and hear from our commercial sponsors. So we're going to be right back in a few minutes. Come back and talk with us on Insights in Leadership in Life. Hi there, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm Roberta Pickett, your host for the program, and I've got with me tonight 3 guests. We've got Bonnie, Ken, and Mark, and they represent very different types of businesses, both in size and in the services that they offer. And based on, if you were in that first segment, you heard a lot about that background. So we want to find out more about whether leadership is different based on the type of business that you're in, or the size of the business, or what you do. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I want to start with Bonnie. I want to hear from all of you, but we're going to start with Bonnie. What do you think are some of the most important characteristics or traits that a leader needs to have to be successful? As a solopreneur.
As a solopreneur and entrepreneur, I'm coming from a very different place, because I cannot even remotely understand what it's like to be in the corporate environment. that would not be the right place for me. You have to really think outside the box. You have to be able to juggle multiple balls. You have to be very determined. You have to be focused. You have to be passionate about what you are doing. You have to love what you're doing, because you're waking up to doing it every single day. You have to create a successful team that supports you, and you have to have really good advisors and mentors that can direct you and help you, because sometimes when you're in your own little box, even if you're looking outside the box, you need other people to guide you and direct you. And like, I have my own coach who helps me, and then I go, my actual role model is my father. And my husband is also a role model for me. He's a role model for me for more of the life balance side. And then my ex-husband was also a role model for me. He was also an entrepreneur, and so I have only known what an entrepreneurial life is, and it's determination, it's focus, it's being committed to what you're doing, it's knowing what your clients need and why they want it, and being the best you can be, and setting yourself apart from other people, because you may be selling the same thing, but what makes you different from Joe over here and Sue over there? It's making sure that you stand out, and whatever it is that makes you different, you attract that ideal client for your marketplace. And the other thing is not being a perfectionist. You don't have to be a perfectionist to run a business. Mistakes are a necessary part of learning.
I heard a good quote today. I think it was from Warren Buffett, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was something about, you don't have to do many things right, but you don't want to do a lot of things wrong.
No.
And I thought that's a good point, because you have to have a few key things that you do really, really well.
Very well,
focus in
yes.
on that. Yeah.
And you need to hire out what you can't do well, because in order to be a successful leader, whether you're now, I would assume this applies to any business, you need to hire those that are more intelligent than you, that can do the accounting, that are more intelligent than you, that can do the things that you can't physically do. If you're the accountant, great, then you need to hire someone who can market for you. So it's finding those that you create a great team, and also treating your people the way you want to be treated, and having the values and beliefs that you live by reflected in your business.
Can you hear the passion there?
Yeah, there you go.
That's great. I just love it. I mean, it's very evident that you are fully engaged in what you do with your work, and that you know what you're doing and where you're going with it. At least that's the sound. That's the way it comes across.
I'm absolutely certain where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
And as I shared earlier, I had a life change, and that oftentimes makes people make a change in their life and a direction. And where I was before in the entrepreneurial coaching, I was making a difference, but it wasn't big enough for me. And I wanted to make a million-person difference. I want to be affecting millions of people, helping them and educating them in the best ways I can with the type of business that I am doing, working with the boomers and seniors and advocating for them through patient advocacy and aging and caregiving and so on.
Well, you got millions to choose from.
It's the biggest growing market, too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, that's great. And lots more questions to ask there I want to get into, but let's hear from these other guys as well. How about you, Mark? What do you think is important to be an effective leader?
Well, many things that you've said are what I strive to do. The passion, absolutely. Passion has to be there. And as Mr. Ford said, he just has to surround himself with good people, because I found right off the bat that my passion is people, and I am a people pleaser, which could be, it could affect the wheel of life as well. You have to be careful to balance it out, and I feel that I'm very, not sacrificial, but to the extent where I want to make sure that customer is taken care of. And sometimes I've actually been too much to the side where I take the customer's side. The customer is always right, whether they are or not. I think it's very important to treat the customer with respect, let them say what's affecting them, and then offer solutions. It's very important. I've had mostly men that seem to have the defensive nature that I've hired that I've had to let go because they've fired some of my customers by being chivalrous and wanting to win the war, be right. And I said, no, it's not about being right. It's about taking care of the customer and giving them a good experience. One of the many tools that Glass Doctor has in our tool bag is a poster that hangs in there, and I framed it. It says, our product is the way our customer feels when we're done. Because you're right, anybody can do whatever industry it is, but what was your experience, Mrs. Jones? Did you feel comfortable with our professional, uniformed representative coming into your home and taking care of your needs? And would you recommend us to a friend?
So it's really about modeling a type of behavior and expecting that, modeling at your level, but also expecting it from everybody who works for you.
And hopefully you can pass on a bit of your own passion to the employees. Pick a person that has enthusiasm and love for life and love for people, and hopefully some skills, if it's mechanical or whatever your industry is that you're representing. In ours, it's a blue collar. It's the final frontier, the service industry. And dressing them up and having them put the customer's eyeglasses on.
Yeah.
So they can see or walk in their moccasins or whatever phrase you want to use, to have some compassion and show empathy and concern for their needs.
Sounds a little bit to me like you're sharing the vision there too. You share it from your perspective, and hopefully they absorb that and share it back with the rest of the organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Through continuing education.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, Ken, in the big old corporate world,
Yes.
what's important
it's a great question, and it's a question I've kind of dedicated my life and study to really, I've always been intrigued by trying to understand what differentiates a great leadership. And you think about Steve Jobs at Apple and what he was able to accomplish, and how is that to be? And what I've come to realize that it's a little bit of everything, including our personalities, who we are, how we're wired, our DNA, if you will. And in terms of some people seek recognition, they're achievement-oriented, and they have certain characteristics within them that gives them the drive and ambition, and some of the characteristics we talked about. But there are other certain competencies and so forth that can be learned, and people go to graduate school and get their MBAs to become better leaders, etc. But I think all the attributes that have been discussed this evening are important. I think there's risk-taking skills, organizational abilities, certainly the people dimension, to work, to lead others, to build teams, develop team members, are all critical ingredients to success. Roberta, you had asked in preparation of this to think about a quote or a book or whatever, and one of the expressions that I learned early on in my career that really stuck with me was, I think, one of my early years as a professional was, people will support what they help create. And I think today that still rings true in terms of collaboration and cooperation and engagement in the workplace, and it probably has never been stronger than it is today. So that's one guiding principle that's been paramount for me.
So really engaging the folks that work with you or for you in whatever it is you're trying to create.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in the decision-making process as well?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay.
The premise being those closest to the work are the real experts. And as we look at, contemporary quality practices in Six Sigma and Lean, it's really the people that are doing the work that are most familiar with, dissecting the workflows and the work process, that they know what's wrong and how to fix it.
Yeah, you can't take the C-level executives, put them in the room and fix the processes. You have to get down to where the processes are actually being worked.
The team members themselves.
Yeah, that's great. So what are there, you mentioned that your dad was your role model.
Mm-hmm. He is my role model.
What was the key thing that he taught you?
Absolute dedication. I can remember my dad working 12, 16 hours a day and going with Dad to the shop and, going on the weekends. And, there's a book out there called the 4-Hour Work Week or 4-Hour Day or something. It doesn't exist. I'm sorry. If you want to have a successful business, I don't believe it exists that way. Maybe for somebody that it does. That's not been my personal experience. And he has been my role model, and I've watched what he has created. He has created, several very successful companies. He's had partnerships that have been very, very good.
So dedication
and a
Work
passion.
Hard, play hard.
Yeah.
Well, he played hard. He worked hard. Dad loved. He loved his work. That was what he loved. That was his passion.
So in one word of what is the most important characteristics, you think?
Commitment.
Commitment. Dedication. Ken?
Engagement.
Engagement, great. Well, I have so many more questions that I have to ask you, but believe it or not, we're at the end of this segment already, and we have to have some time for our sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. So please join us back after this break with insights on leadership in life. Thanks for staying with us, and welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm Roberta Pickett, your host, and tonight my guests are...
I'm Bonnie Kuhn with Bonnie Kuhn Events.
And I'm Ken Buback, representing Healthcare Administration.
And I'm Mark Borchin with Glass Doctor of the Gold Country.
Wonderful. Well, I am sure enjoying our segment tonight. It's really fun to find out the different perspectives on leadership and how it is different in different types of businesses. I think it's interesting to see where it's similar and where it's different. I think the other thing that's interesting is that success isn't a straight line. You know, most of us don't start one place and end up straight ahead at the end of the road saying, whew, it was all a breeze. So it's mistakes or it's failures or it's hardships or struggles that tend to make us really who we are. It really, I think it ratchets something into place in our being, in our souls. So I want to hear your stories about lessons learned maybe through the years. Might be a mistake, it might be a struggle, or maybe it's just a story. So, Mark, how about you? I bet you have some stories to tell.
We don't have enough time, so I'll start in the middle of life.
Okay, middle of life. One story, Mark.
Well, as I briefly said earlier, I started out, my stepdad passed away, and he had a business. He had multiple businesses. I grew up in the auto supply and machine shop business, and I loved the counter. I loved working with people and working with books before computers and all that, more than grinding valves and rebuilding engines. So I went into broadcast radio, and I found I was bored with that because I love all kinds of music, not just one. And so I kept venturing out, and I got into rock chip repairs and expanded, thinking, God's opening doors, and I'm just walking through them. I had no commitments to anybody else but myself, and so I kept growing the business, and I wanted to pay everybody top dollar in the industry, so I paid the top wages.
It was looking good.
I didn't know about the bottom line. Again, I didn't go to school, and I just didn't have that savvy, and nobody to mentor me per se. And so when I had grown it to 3 stores and somebody else that was working for me that was older and good intentions, he said, why don't we open up a wholesale and float glass, you know, on a big ship from far away and get a great rate? Well, hundreds of thousands of dollars went into, and I stole from Peter to pay Paul and grow that, and I couldn't keep it all up, couldn't keep it going, and the product that I had gotten was to feed my 3 stores and offset it by wholesaling to others.
What was the lesson you learned?
Lesson I learned is know your numbers. Know your numbers. And you're the one holding the bag. The employees can go find another job. And I had to take responsibilities, and thank goodness I had enough assets to do so. Then moving up here, what a mixed blessing. Not of knowledge, not of my own actions, but this was the best market, the best place, and I wanted to live here, and I met my wife, and we said, wow, let's move to the family ranch, and it's for sale, and we bought it, and we were raising our family here, and I became part of the community. So the old Mark was getting all the pats on the back from all the vendors because I was moving so much product. They were all taking me to lunch and having fun. Here, it's about doing for the people, and that's where my passion really grew.
Love it.
I was fortunate enough to become the president of the Chamber of Commerce and help resurrect the Chamber to what it is now. And been involved with the business community in so many different ways.
Yeah, definitely. So you found your passion through your mistake, actually. So, Ken, what about you?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to reflect, you know, in one's life. Over the last 4 decades, I have a lot of scars and war stories. And I've tried to strategically manage my career because that's always been an important value for me. And I think I've worked for 7 different employers in the span of my career. And one of the scenarios is I was looking to do a relocation to a different state. Wanted a brighter life with my family, and I was so eager to make the move and to make the next move in my career that I failed to do the full due diligence necessary to assure my success. And I found I was successful in getting the position and relocating my family, but I found shortly after arriving to start my new position that it was not really a good fit with myself and the culture. And the leadership style of the senior management organization was such that I discovered I made a serious error moving my family, and I found myself in quite the predicament. So the learning there was always do your due diligence in the full scope of the move and what you're getting into. The other learning was I stayed in that situation for about 3 years because I wanted to have some longevity in the role. It was an important role for me. And I made the best of it and took advantage of the opportunities that were there and made lemonade out of lemons, so to speak, the best I could. And so that's one of the scenarios of learnings for me as I advance my
Well,
career.
the other thing I heard from that is how important the culture of the company or the organization that you work with, how important that is to you overall satisfaction
Absolutely.
and fulfillment.
Absolutely.
It wasn't what you were doing so much as
Sure.
the environment that you were working in.
And what I find is people make job changes for a variety of reasons, whether it's for more responsibility or more money or whatever. And you have to really be careful. And in order to thrive and have a passion for what you're doing, all those things need to align that are important, including the overall environment that you work in and the so-called culture and what that consists of. So, yeah, absolutely critical.
Very good. Well, thank you. Bonnie? Lessons learned?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. But, gosh, where do I start? Lessons learned and mistakes made. Well, the biggest mistake I made was not starting out with a partner. And I'd had many of my friends and advisors who were entrepreneurs say, you work better with a partner. And so I would kind of poo-poo it and put it away and say, no, I don't think so. And when I finally recognized that that's a key aspect for me, that's when things shifted, and particularly this year, having connected with my partner, Vicki. She's just been an amazing, amazing person for my life because I am outside the box. I am creative, and I'm doing all these things, and she keeps me within the guidelines that I need to keep going so I can keep moving forward, so I can still be creative, but keep moving forward. The other mistakes were not paying attention to my health and not paying attention to my body's needs. And because of that, I had some very serious issues, and they forced me to have to leave an industry that I loved and that I was great at. So I had to redefine myself, and then when I was trying to redefine myself in the entrepreneurial industry, it happened to be the same shift in the economy where a lot of people were losing their jobs and everybody decided they wanted to become an entrepreneurial coach who'd never actually been an entrepreneur before. And so it was an interesting time frame. And the lessons learned that really shifted me was coming back to that passion and really reconnecting with what's inside that motivates me, that motivates the people around me that I know that can make a big difference, that really can shift life in such a dramatic way. And that I honestly have to say was my mother, and again, during the hospice period. And so that wasn't necessarily a mistake. It was an extraordinary lesson and an extraordinary lifetime of 10 weeks that changed my life. And
Yeah, it sounds, because I think it's not always a mistake, but it was a struggle, it was a hardship, it was a difficult time in your life, and yet from that tough time, you got a beautiful gift.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, my mentor, my dad I love him to death, and love all my other advisors and so on. I've got a great branding and marketing consultant that I work with as well. So I really stepped out this time in a very different manner also, and it created a very different team than I've had in the past, and it's been exceptional in helping me move forward.
What role do you think that that you as leaders have to help others learn lessons? Is there a responsibility on your end for that?
Absolutely. I think as leaders, the development of those throughout the organization that have some accountability for the end product is an important role. And it's essential that we're prepared for growth, that we have the diversity of skills needed. And I see that as one of the most important roles of leadership is developing others.
Good. How about the Mark?
There are so many. Make sure that the passion is communicated in a healthy way, and that's one thing that attracted me to Glass Doctor, or a franchise has systems and procedures in place. Mm-hmm. I could say I relate to ADD type people very well, and so I do what I can to keep focused, but my energy is just so overflowing that it doesn't come out very well sometimes. So they help me to channel that and give you systems and procedures to follow that reflected what I had in my head, but I wasn't communicating very well.
So you get to stay focused on your passion,
a little bit,
but have the processes in place. It's similar to what you were saying, Bonnie, about having your Vicky as part of your partnership now.
Yes.
That's great.
Being part of a corporation, I never was before. I was an independent, so hiring a consulting firm, if you would, many times is similar to being an entrepreneur and a franchise.
Absolutely. Well, I really thank you all for your honesty on this one, because it's more of a personal perspective when we start to talk about mistakes or lessons learned, and I think they're very powerful stories. Again, back to the thing, lessons learned, it's not a straight trail. We'll be right back in a few minutes with Insights on Leadership Life. Please come back after these messages. Hey, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. And we've been having great conversation this evening with Bonnie Kuhn and Ken Buback and Mark Borchin. And we've been talking about different types of leadership, the differences between leadership in different types of organizations and business sizes. And what we want to talk about in this last segment is something that I hear often as a coach, and that's the question of, how do you balance life with work? Is it really even possible? So that's what I'm going to ask these guys about next. And Ken, I'm going to start with you.
Well, this is a great summation question, because I think it really touches on a lot of what we've discussed already. We talked about hiring smart and how important it is to have a good team behind you. And I think if you're going to have balance and take the time that we all need to recharge, you need to have a great staff behind you. So hiring those around you is critical.
And that's interesting, because it really doesn't matter whether it's a solopreneur, a small business,
Partner,
or a large corporation.
Whole team
yeah.
of individuals. I think work-life balance, as you've alluded to, is critical. I'm a huge advocate of working hard but playing hard, and we all know to be successful in today's world you got to give 110%. But in order to have the energy to do that day in and day out, we need to replenish and refresh ourselves. So I make it a habit of assuring that I take time each year to get away for a considerable amount of time, a week or two, to recharge the batteries, and during that time I try not to answer the emails and stay connected electronically, so to speak, but really to get a fresh perspective, so when you come back, you can give it your all and all the energy that it requires to be successful in today's business world. So those are just a couple of elements that work for me.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite getaway activity that you like?
Well, you may, or I think you might be alluding to my winemaking. As you know, that's a passion of mine and a great...
Well, you're in a perfect county.
A great hobby. I have a small backyard, a vineyard, where I do my own growing and winemaking. And but that's the other thing. I have a lot of outside interest besides just my career, which is extremely important, but many outside interests that keep me occupied on the weekends and on my spare time.
So that, it sounds like, is a key point, is having other interests or passions that fill you up and to re-energize you.
Yeah. And I think for me, a lot of it is relationships, whether it be friendships, family, spouse, others, children, that help you to refill those drives and ambitions that help keep you going. So.
Or maybe even give you a little different perspective. It's
there
like, Ken, come back.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you, Mark? Yeah, it is.
I believe that the biggest blessing I've had at times with being self-employed is the flexibility in my time, so that I can attend the kids' sports, take the family away during their breaks, and my wife might think that I still need to give more because there is never enough time, and of course, being a taxi mom, especially in the country like this, it's different than being down in the burbs where the kids can ride the bicycles as much.
Long distances.
But yeah, it's the flexibility. I try to take 2 or 3 weeks off, plus maybe a couple of because you get better rates when you can stay over on a Monday. So try and take that Monday or that Friday off and extend the weekend, or work Saturday and then take off Sunday and Monday, and having the good employees to help you do that. And it's just the spiritual. I love fellowship. I love being social, and it's something that I crave and I enjoy. So even when I'm not working, I'm still promoting and engaging with people. And
that's a value. It sounds like that's just part of who you are.
Yeah.
That's part of your personality traits. So yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Bonnie, what about work balance for you? Earlier today you said something about you have to be out there all the time if you're going to be successful. So is balance achievable?
Actually, you know what? It's going to be something that has to be achievable and demonstrated in my life, because my business as a corporate speaker, radio show host, and blogger, and TV host that caters to the senior and boomer market, I'm teaching them how to create balance in caregiving situations, how to balance their lives in entering into a retirement life, how to balance their life financially, how to do all these things. So for me, this is essential that I live it as well as teach it. So for me, balancing it is, I really rely a lot on my husband. He's very spiritual. He meditates every day. He keeps me very calm and keeps me very grounded. And I really am very connected with our family. We do things all the time together. And we have a very tight-knit group of friends and family that we do things with. And then I just love, taking a drive or going for a walk, or my very favorite place to go is actually I love to bake and cook. So when I'm in that place of either just really needing to recenter and rebalance, then just you'll find me in the kitchen, and all my neighbors will be happy.
Exactly. Very fun. Do you prefer baking or cooking, or are you a gourmet cook, or are you just?
I love all the above, and I've been told I'm a gourmet cook, so I love to cook. I've been doing the Thanksgivings and Christmas for the families since I've been 18. So.
Well, and you were doing event planning before, so it's probably
so I also did a lot of catering on my own. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Interesting.
I have a question for my colleagues on the show here, and that is the age of electronics and the demands of email, voicemail, and being plugged in 24/7, and how you manage that. That seems to be a real dilemma in today's business world.
I can answer.
Go for it.
Because where we live, we don't get great cell phone service all the time. So it's very easy to be disconnected. I mean, my kids are constantly on me. How come you don't have your cell phone on? And I said, well, I did well without it when I was 16. I think I'll be fine not having it glued to my head. But partly because of where we live, I don't have the opportunity to have it connected to me all the time. I actually, when I spend time with my friends that live in the city, or in San Francisco or in places like that, I actually almost become annoyed. Mm-hmm. Because, like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was talking to me the entire conversation while she was walking through Target. And when I found that out, I was actually really insulted. Because to me, there's a time and a place for a conversation. There's a time and a place for electronics. And, like at the dinner table, kids, put the phones away.
Right.
You know what? Yeah. It's time to have a conversation, because I would imagine, because I've been told they are now hiring mentors for seniors and boomers to communicate with the younger generations, because they don't have the same work ethic, and that they're so electronically connected, they don't know how to have a conversation.
we're all in business and we have to have a little bit of marketing background, psychographics are blowing me away. I am the old-fashioned marketer. I like belly-to-belly, face-to-face, and so much of the new gadgets take away from that a little bit. I use them just like I used a computer. Growing up at my age, it was a elective. So I use it. I'm not in love with it. It's a double-edged sword, and I use it the best I can, but I do not have a problem turning it off. And hey, I'm a farmer.
Do you think that do you think you guys are the norm, or is it
I would
more?
say I can only speak for myself, but I think in larger organizations and say corporate environment, it's a real hazard to be plugged in constantly because the volume of emails and messages that come your way can be enormous. And just to keep up with it, and that's why a lot of individuals on vacation, on the weekend, in the evenings, because they're busy during the day with back-to-back meetings. The only time they can respond to these hundreds of messages is at night or on the weekend.
Overload.
It really is.
It's interesting. I've thought recently whether there's going to be a peak, whether it has been building over the last 10, 15 years, and whether we're going to get to that place where people do back off more because they realize how invasive it's become. But I don't know, it's interesting.
I'd compare that to, I would say no. The new generations, no problem. Speed is the game.
But what does that do?
When I grew up
to
in
the
retail
organization?
in Sacramento, when we needed someone to help us hustle, they brought in an LA, a bigger city person, and they'd run around us. Our fast was their slow.
I know.
So the kids are getting an overdose of it, and they will somehow absorb it. Are we going to lose some of the value?
Yeah.
And will things change? Yes.
I heard something on the news today that the younger generation feel that they're more connected through text messaging than through conversation. So interesting stuff.
Global communications.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, time has really flown by with the three of you guys, and it's really been great. I really enjoyed. In fact, I feel like I wish we had 3 more hours to get into it even more. And I hope our audience has found this both enlightening as well as entertaining. One thing I noticed about all three of you is your positive attitude, and I think that really is, for me, something that's really important as a leader. Not all leaders have it, but I think it is a powerful trait of effective leaders, and it's something we get to decide and choose on, and that's our own attitude.
Optimism.
Exactly. So thank you for your time, and thank you for being our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, TSPN is proud to present Insights on Leadership and Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.